And one of the main reasons that I think we need to start thinking about systems is because we get way, way, way more bang for our buck when we invest in systems that can be spread downstream, right? So I will get into the details of some of the things I'm going to say in a little bit, but a big part of why I say that is some basic math, right? And thinking about what do Green spend money on? What do Green campaigns spend money on? And a lot of the times it's things like yard signs, right? So for $100, depending on your local printing your local printing costs, you can get one. $100 will get one candidate, a few dozen signs. Maybe if you're getting a great deal, closer to 50. If you're getting polybag recyclable signs, then we're talking about closer to maybe 15, 20 signs. So $100 doesn't really get you a lot. It can get you a good number of printed materials, but meanwhile, if we took that $100 and invested in systems, right? For Call Hub, a system that we're going to talk about later that does text banking and phone banking, for $100 you can get 1,428 minutes of phone banking. You can get 2,000 minutes of robocalls. You can get 2,911 text messages, right? That's direct contact with voters, right? And we'll talk about that too, because you're going to need databases to do this. You're going to need lists to utilize this. But I mean, 20 yard signs versus direct contact with 2,000 voters is a no-brainer to me. StreamYard, another thing we're going to talk about, that just live streaming. You can pay for 6 months of professional branded streams that the party can use, candidates can use, locals can use. We're on StreamYard right now, right? 6 months of that for that $100, and it can be used by everyone. Another thing we're going to talk about is project management. That's 40% of the annual rental from Basecamp from the Young Eco-Socialists, the Green Party Youth Caucus. And that's 40% of getting something that can replace your communications, give you task management, give you project management, and it can be filtered out. It's scalable, and it can be filtered out to all of your locals, to all of your partner organizations, to all of your campaigns, right? And a central part of why thinking about this as an organization is important, right? Is because often in the Green Party, the campaigns are usually the innovators, right? Campaigns are the ones that are figuring out the new tech, and they're moving ahead, and they're pushing things. And merchandise systems is an example. It took me 2 years to do within the Green Party, in terms of transitioning to a new kind of merchandise system. And in Howie's campaign, that was done in an hour, right? The campaign manager, I, and the treasurer talked, okayed it, we moved ahead, right? So campaigns can move faster. They can be more adaptable. They generally have more money and more interest than a long-term party. So they have the ability to be innovators. The problem is campaigns are finite, right? Campaigns are finite. They go away. The election happens, and they either get covered up with the dust cover until the next cycle, or they disappear completely. And the lack of a consistent national database in the Green Party that everyone is using means that those things just disappear, right? Lists just disappear. Volunteers disappear. We need to address the fact that we need to become much better at having our campaigns onboarding people into the party, because parties have permanence, right? And for infrastructure, you need permanence. Unstable infrastructure is ineffective. So that's why it's really important for our parties and our organizations, our locals, our state chapters, to really think hard about what do we bring to the table, what can we bring to the table in terms of systems and infrastructure, right? And the key to it is thinking of these things as ways to make our work more efficient, ways to make our reach larger, things like that. So I'm going to dive into the, actually talking about some systems, because at this point it's just been kind of, what is a system and why is this conversation important to the party? So to start off with our day-to-day work, right? Efficiency is key. Our opponents have massive war chests. They have party infrastructure. They have professional staffing. We can't match them on their playing field, right? So we need to be running the guerrilla game, and that means being smart. That means being creative. That means being incredibly efficient, and we need to use our technology and automation to our advantage, right? I don't know how many people have worked with Democratic campaigns and things and Republican campaigns and things like that, but one thing I'll tell you about having huge war chests is that they're not very effective campaigners. They spend a huge amount of money in generally bad. I mean, how many mailers did everybody get from their congressional reps, right? How many people were moved by that? I don't personally consider that to be it's one of the higher cost things you can do to do voter outreach, but I would consider it one of the least effective things to do with voter outreach. So it's David versus Goliath, and like many Goliaths, our Goliath is inefficient. So we have to really focus in on how can we do this work better, right? And so one of the key things that we need to do party building, we need more people, but we also need to engage those people effectively. When you show up at a Green Party meeting, there needs to be action items people get involved in. We need to be onboarding people properly. We need political education. There's so much going on. And frankly, the Green Party is decades behind in how we do our day-to-day work. Most of it is done via email. And I'll be frank, most of it is done on conference calls because we are ineffective at working on via email. And a big part of that is email lists are an absolutely horrible way to do organizing, right? Things can get lost, things can get delayed. Communication isn't communication, it's people talking in parallel. It leads to poor work between calls, and that leads to, in the Illinois Green Party, we have a once a month coordinating call, and it's 3 hours long. And that, a lot of it could be lessened were we more effective in working in between calls. So even though in the Illinois Green Party we've picked up a lot of this stuff, we've still got to do the work of utilizing it properly.